We're back. Welcome to a very special episode of the Comic Book Strategic Investment Weekend Update. I am your Comic Book Invest Weekend Update author and host, Nico, and today it is my distinct pleasure to be joined by none other than Matt Nelson, primary grader for CGC. If you are unfamiliar with Mr. Nelson, now would be the opportune time to sit back and enjoy. Matt, will you introduce yourself to our live audience?
Absolutely. Nico, thank you for having me on again. It was a pleasure. I had so much fun last time. My name's Matt Nelson. I'm primary grader of CGC Comics. I've been with the company for 7, working on my 8th year. Obviously, CGC's been open for 20 years, graded over 5 million comics. Just going on all cylinders, so yeah.
Yeah, we're all really excited. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to do a fly by the seat of our pants fundraiser for colorectal cancer research with the American Cancer Society. You were slated to be here 2 weeks ago, and of course, we were all sort of stunned and shocked at the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and I thought it was really honorable for you guys to say, go, do that. We'll be back. So on behalf of everybody at CBSI, and certainly on behalf of the people who that particular charity is near and dear to their heart, thank you. So there's a ton of questions. I don't want us to get bogged down in an elaborate discussion of restoration detection like I did last time, even though it's fascinating to me. There are some more brass tacks questions that people really want to know the answer to. So okay. I thought I would ask immediately the question that everybody wants to know. What the hell is a 9.9?
Oh, wow. Well, I guess it depends on the comic.
And while you're at it, can you tell us what the hell is a 10?
Yeah, it's what all I can tell you. I say it depends on the comics because you're dealing with so many different. It comes down to printing issues. Because regular wear is kind of what gets you to 9.8, and then 9.9 and 10 becomes more of a printing error or a printing defect. And that could obviously that's different, whatever era you pick, all the way up to the modern era, even now. And, everybody knows that, even today we're dealing with printing defects issues. Some are fixable, some aren't. So I think, that's really what it comes. And that answer is different for every book because every month there's books coming out that have different issues. And, so that's what separates the 9.8s from the 10.0s. And then obviously if you go back further, then you're talking about other factors like aging, now you got tanning or, pages that are turning is an issue. Obviously a 10 has to be white pages. And that's why you see, obviously more 10s on modern books and 9.9s because it's virtually impossible to find, something even, I'd say 80s and you get in the 70s, it starts getting really, 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 really hard and, and back. So, that it's really just a book that's just, you can't find a flaw. And that's the thing is that, you eventually do find a flaw, and obviously that's open for, arguments sometimes between graders, but that's the thing, perfect is perfect. And it's just, you're dealing with paper. So it's really, really hard to find that perfection. So it's, but yeah. And then 9.9 is just, a smidge below that,
Yeah. I've sold a handful of books in my days and never, not one ever. I've purchased a 9.9 and a 10 though, but I've never subbed one myself. So I guess there were so many different sort of issues that kind of popped up there that are so fascinating. And one of the things that you were talking about is the differences between graders. How many people sit on like a panel that examine a particular book?
Oh, okay.
Like, how does that go? Can you kind of explain that to us?
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, we've got, obviously the high value, we've got the most set of eyes on. We'll have up to, 5 or 6 graders on, all the high value stuff. Obviously you don't need that on every book, but we certainly get multiple opinions. And so, and it's really, it's interesting because a lot of time, most of the time, there's not an exact agreement. Every once in a while, you get a book where everybody hits the same grade, but more often than not, they're off, and that's the subjectivity of grading, and that's true in every grade. I mean, it's not even though you can quantify the higher grades better. Again, printing defects is a big thing because we ignore a lot or we minimize their effect a lot, and so that's different from handling defects or aging. And so when you get in the high grades, you start dealing with those all those minutia and how they work together, and it's complicated. So even then, it's sometimes you don't get a complete agreement on a book, and there's a lot of 9.7s and 9.5s and 9.3s that we give out that fall on either side of the fence, so that's but having multiple graders helps you obviously narrow it down. So it makes sense to have it on the most high value books because obviously you're getting more, you can land on a more concise answer that you feel, it's very, very rock solid, so yeah.
So there's an interesting question in the chat. They were talking about these common printer defects, right? So like ASM 361, the first appearance of Carnage, has that printer grab that everybody's familiar with. Right. A lot of them appear to be like miscut. Are there uniform standards for that kind of thing? Like, do you have notes like on all ASM 361s, these are the defects that we ignore, or is that something that people are kind of trained with, or how does that all go? Oh. Like, and as Ben asked, like, can you get a 9.9 or a 10, or is that what you're saying, that like those sort of defects need to be absent in order to get a 9.9 or 10?
Exactly.
Canto 1 would be okay.
Yeah, on that book, on Spidey 361, yes, it's that would be exactly a good example of that's the kind of, because that's a defect that it takes away paper. You've got printer holes in the back cover, and so that's egregious. Like not as bad as Marvel shipping, obviously, but that's in the realm. You have distro ink, which is substance on top of it. That's different, or then you have those little dents where they're along the edge of the spine where they grab the paper and pull, and they're shaped like a staple, an open, like a manufactured staple. We completely ignore those. Blade pulls we ignore because it's just a slight disturbance in the paper. And so, it really just depends, so I mean, yeah, it's like a printer hole is going to keep it from a 9.9 or a 10. But we do have, to answer your original question, we do have in our database is very extensive, 20 years piling information on it.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, it's awesome. It's we got like the what's it called, the codes for the coupons, like all the golden age coupons, DC,
wow.
D-361 or whatever. So we got all that. And so for like Spidey 361, we have internal notes section for every copy of that book that comes in that says, page count and look out for this defect or watch out for that, or this often has this, or, variants or whatever, anything that pertains to that particular book. That's locked in. And then it's just, you just grade them and then you just become second nature. You just know it's there.
Yeah. So, one of the issues, for example, with modern Marvel books is this, I don't know what you would just call it, like modern Marvel color rub, right? And we see it like really bad, for example, on the Thanos 13 variant.
Right.
How do you guys sort of address the modern Marvel color rub generally? I mean, is there sort of like a uniform rule, specific rules per book? I mean, how do those things kind of develop, or is it a matter of like you see enough of them and then you add them, or?
Yeah, exactly. That's what Sean does over on the modern side, is that he, every month they come out and then we get a big chunk of them. And obviously we have our connections of people who are dealing with large quantities of these books. And so, Sean will get the word from here or there about a new issue that's come in that has this thing, and so you got to see a bunch of this thing to see, it's how extreme it is or how slight it is and what the variation is within the run, and so you have to essentially create like a curve for that book, one book. And like Thanos is a perfect example because it was like there were a lot of them, most of them were like had some kind of issue, and so, specifically what that is, that'd be a Sean question, for that particular book. But it's also hard because, it's the way it's smudged down the back cover spine or anywhere on the cover. It's its own defect, and so you can't really apply the same quantitative measures you do to other defects. You've got to kind of create a whole new thing for it. So it's really weird. It's like you got to just, I guess, kind of like figure out, okay, well, if it's this or if it's 2 times this or 4 times that or 8 times that, then it'll be this grade, and just do the best that you can to, but that's the good thing is that they all come in typically at the same time, so consistency is easier to achieve because, the team is seeing them all at once. And then they trickle in after that, over time. So, it's set in stone up front.
Nice. We talked a lot about these kind of printing defects, right? And one of the questions that I always ask myself is, will they consider this an error or am I going to get a green label? Like, is it Fantastic Four 101 or something else? There's been all kinds of disgruntled members of the comic community who want like Edge of Spider-Verse 2 that has the all black to get a separate label. Some people think that that's ridiculous. This is just all black. They try to, and they've made their own sorts of like kind of intuitive observations and arguments about why one should be and another should not be an error or in some cases a green label or a blue label. Are there kind of bright line rules that you guys use when you think about that, or is it on a book by book basis?
I think it depends on if it's more like a one-off error versus a significant chunk of the run that has a lot of attention by the market, that then you would classify it differently. I think like the there's a few examples. We have the older ones, but it's like because we'll have books that come in that have a printing error. It's that one, it could be something as extreme as the interior is flipped upside down, or there's a different ink strike or whatever. And the one-offs are typically, if they're bad enough, that are egregious enough, they will qualify them. If it affects the appearance of the look or something, I guess in a negative way. But it is kind of a gray area. It's definitely a very, very gray area because we see a lot of variations on a lot of books all the time. And so it really just depends on, like I said, I guess the consistency of the error. Was there a lot of copies? And is there a market for it? Is there an interest in it? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, because, there's a lot of people that want us to put certain things on the label, but a lot of times it's just, it's what they want, and 2 other people maybe, and so we kind of, we have so much space, so we kind of have to be choosy about what we put on there, so
so it evolves over time, right?
Yeah, the market dictates what we do, really. Essentially, we follow the market. We in other ways, I guess, we lead the market. I mean, but we try to do what's right. We try to do what the people want. That's the bottom line. So if there's enough groundswell for it, then we'll definitely consider it.
Interesting, because I know that it changed with Sandman 1, the DC Sandman from the Silver Age, not the
purple and the blue cover,
pink and blue, or the pink and blue,
or pink, the pink, whatever, purple, whatever the 2 different shades are. Right?
I'm colorblind. I would not be a good CGC grader.
Right.
So I don't know what those colors are, but so it used to be that was not recognized, and things evolve, and it's now recognized.
It's like the rye with the glossy cover and the matte cover, Rye Zero.
Perfect example.
It's another one. It's like we never differentiated, and then all of a sudden it was a thing, and we're like, okay, well, we'll start differentiating. It's but there's time. I don't know how much how much is out there like that? I mean, but that's the interesting thing about the market now is that people they keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper and getting into these nuances, and picking out little differences in things. It's very interesting. It's like watching dissecting, and they come. Ooh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're losing you, but you might be coming back. Hold on just a second. You guys, we should have let you know before that we might have some connection issues. Matt is dealing with a storm in his area, just so happens. So we'll get his connection issues worked out as we go. But thank you to everybody in the chat tonight. All you guys in the chat, if you guys have questions, we're gonna really try and get to them. So. We'll let. It seems like Matt's stuff seems to be working a little bit there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, buddy. Yeah, yep.
You can? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's what we're okay now?
Huh. Yeah, in fact, you look perfect again. So
you never left. I'm sitting here, I'm like watching me and watching you, and I'm like, oh, what happened? I guess I'm not there. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, nevertheless, we'll just move right along. They're making fun of us both now because generally it's me with the bad internet in the hills of West Virginia. And now I can say that it's a big city problem in Sarasota.
Bad area here.
So
very bad. I live in a bad
what you were talking about is how CGC keeps an eye on the market, keeps its thumb on the pulse of the comic market to really capture the trends that are emerging and document them, when you guys grade books, period. One of the places that I grew up on was the CGC boards. I love them.
Yep.
I'm like, one of those people who still loves the CGC boards. Now, as a member of the Comic Book Invest family, don't get me wrong, I certainly enjoy Comic Book Invest too, but I must say that the scariest moment in my life was when Brittany joined the Comic Book Invest Facebook group. And I was like, well, there goes our relationship with CGC. It's like sending her to the Thunderdome. I wouldn't wish my worst enemy on that. Somehow the CGC boards has maintained civility, regulated itself for 2 decades. Are you on the boards?
I mean, no, I don't. I haven't posted. It's been few years since I posted, and since I joined, no. The answer is a handful of times in 10 years, I guess. And I'm not on there. I mean, I enjoy reading it. I just don't have the time. But if there's something I gotta read, I'll read it. No, but I agree with you. I think that given the history, I mean, there's been some crazy interesting stuff on the boards, and there was a time when it was going many years back, it was it got interesting, and there were some characters on there, and it's but I think that's the thing, is that it's kind of like you have a lot of the same people that have been on there for 20 years or almost, and there's like a knowledge there. There's like a kind of like just a general knowledge. And when you enter the boards as a new guy, or new whoever, you immediately you start asking your questions or whatever. Inevitably, they're going to get answered. They're going to kind of like, okay, look, no, this is the way it is. We've already figured that out. We already argued that 5 years ago. We already came to this conclusion. We already this, we already that. And so you've got this wall of knowledge. And so I think that contributes to why there's like there's kind of like it's just self-regulated. There's not really a lot of room for people to get crazy on the board. Because if you do, it's like, well, look, we've been down this road before. We've seen this. There's like a community now. And it's all this shared stuff. So it's nice. But I also think it's just like it's always been. It's so valuable for not only sharing knowledge, but just keeping an eye on everything, and just always being watchful. Not just bad stuff, good stuff, everything. Just there's just such a there's just an awareness there that nothing gets by, and I think it contributes to the safety of the hobby. We've been lucky, I think, in comics that we have not faced a lot of problems that other hobbies have faced over the years, and and I think the board certainly contributed to that.
Heck yeah. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because I know you guys keep a watchful eye on the hobby, but you also have an acute, unique view that no one else has, because you get to see the books that are being submitted. Have you noticed trends that you would be kind enough to share with us, just generally or specifically? I mean, is there beyond the obvious that everybody and their brother has sent a stack of Ultimate Fallout 4s to Sarasota to be encapsulated? I mean, what are the kinds of trends that are emerging that you're seeing, like books that are crossing your desk that you're like, wow, there's suddenly an interest in this, or even if it's just kinds of books, like certainly there's an emerging market for romance comics, golden age romance comics that has just come out of nowhere in the last couple of years.
Finally, absolutely. So in romance, obviously the easy answer is, we see what's hot. But there's certainly there's some interesting observations I have. Obviously the hot stuff comes in whenever something pops up. That's usual. The vintage, though, we're not running out of books, but the grades are getting lower and lower and lower. And I think, and it's not just like golden age and silver age. I mean, it's even bronze age. Because we get a lot of those keys in, and the runs too. But I think it's obviously supply, but I think it's also the demand has gotten so huge for this stuff and how old it is now. It's like, I get 70s. We're not that far behind me when I started collecting. And now I got to remind myself that was 40 something years ago. And so, these books are old. And so, and obviously with everything going on, the values, you see like even COVID, it's like COVID comes and comics explode, go to another level. It's like, what is stopping comics? It's like COVID can't even stop comics. And so, so the demand, so prices go up, so it's worth it to get, lower graded copies graded, and so it's a combination of all those things. And obviously the supply is slowly running out, especially the older stuff, for sure. We're seeing, you just don't see the 94s and the 96s and the pedigrees and all that you saw 15 years ago, that stuff. A lot of that is, there's still a lot to go, but there's a lot of it that's been graded. So basically it's like the grades are going, grades are all over the place. You get beautiful stuff. You get, just garbage sometimes, and just like trash books, you wouldn't believe it, and everything in between. And so that's a challenge because, you're grading all over the scale all the time. And you've got books that are missing parts. You've got books that have, restoration, books that, all kind of, and then you've got, foreign comics coming in, and that's coming in more and more. And so that's new. And so it's like, the grading has gone from like vintage comics in the high end to everything, and 10 times of it, and so it's like, wow, so trying to keep up with all that. So it's, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing everything across the board. And it's nuts. It really pushes you to your limit as a grader. It really, but it's great though, because it's a great, experience to be able to grade all that stuff, because that's the way you get better, is to see this stuff. And so this is a great time to be grading.
Yeah, it's a great time to be in comics. I never dreamed this was, never in a million years that I think it would be as wild as it is. So you mentioned pedigree books. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Chinatown pedigree?
Yeah. Hold on. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Oh, you just brought up the thing. Oh God. See, now I'm all paranoid. Like as soon as the screen changes, I'm like, oh,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. Chinatown. Gorgeous. It's interesting. This was one that is unique in a couple of ways. It's unique in that Pat kept it all together. Excuse me. And didn't break any of it up for 20 years, which is miraculous, because that's that almost never happens. And then the fact that it's been 20 years, that he's been sitting on this, and and we had talked about Chinatown's bounced around for years through the hobby. I mean, Pat's talked to people about it. I mean, I had it on the pedigree website for years ago, and I think I might have had a couple of scans or something that I got now, but it was just there. It was just sitting there. Pat just had it, and so we just it is something we've been working on for months. It was just kind of there. I was like, what do you think? And I was like, and so I got the list. I looked at some of, I'd seen the books as we had graded some of them during that time, and got with the team, and I was like, what do you think? And it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer, and so so that's how it happened. And then so Pat and I got together and we wrote up, that he gave me the history, and then we kind of, got the whole thing, the launch done. Got the books graded and got the labels on and all that stuff. And so it's amazing. But the books themselves are incredible. I mean, they're like, white page, high grade, just everything you want. And the marking. I mean, like, what more could you want? A marking, but not just a marking, a cool marking, or several cool markings, And so I mean, it is the true definition of a cool pedigree, great story and everything.
Do you have a favorite pedigree? Is that a question that you can answer on the air?
Yeah, the Mile High. I mean, it's like saying who's your favorite band or who's the biggest band, the Beatles. It's like, I mean, I think, the ones that have character, Larson, Okajima, there are, you can rack and stack them different ways when you start looking at the different, the grades, the periods, the number of books, the keys, the value, the markings, the history. There's a lot of ways to slice and dice it. And but the ones that I think character seems to be a factor, because like watching the Okajimas just take off the past, couple of years, or even year. I don't even know. It just all of a sudden I turn around and they're selling for like more than Mile Highs. It's the story. It's the story and the markings, and which conveys the story. And that. So I think that's really what seems to be becoming the focal point for pedigrees. Or at least interest in it, besides obviously what's in it and the grade and everything. But the Mile High is the same way. It's got the coding and the number of copies, and and obviously the the story itself is incredible. Forget the books, of course, and so that. So I'd say those are probably the most interesting, because it is all about the story. Obviously it's high grade books. But I think the story is what really brings it to life. So those stand out in my mind.
Can you talk a little bit about how pedigrees are birthed today? New pedigrees. I mean, this one you had indicated the Chinatown pedigree was in the pipeline for some time. But how does that selection process happen?
Interesting. All right. So you got Golden Age, you got Silver Age. Atomic Age would be, it's an interesting bridge between the two. You get some collections that have Atomic Silver, some that have Gold Atomic, and then a couple that have all three. But usually it's Silver or Gold. We don't really pass Silver Age. It gets really stringent, the rules, because Silver obviously become more common after 64. And so pretty much, so Silver Age has a pretty definite, those have, the parameters are very specific. It's got to have, Marvel or DC, but preferably both. Obviously, if it has like Gold Key and Charlton and Dell and all the other stuff in it, that's bonus too. But it's got to have the keys, it's got to have the runs, and it's all got to be in like high grade. Like it can't be like start getting a high grade at like number 20 or something, or it can't be like just one run or spotty issues or even a couple of runs, because that there's I don't want to say they're common because they're not. But, remember, this goes back to the 80s, this idea about Silver Age pedigrees. When Silver Age was coming out, there was a lot coming out in the 80s and 90s. And so, and then it was all graded, after that. But there's not as much coming out now because obviously, those collections are old. They're getting, they're going the way of the Golden Age. And so, so now the rules that were set back then, we followed those. And now it's like, okay, well, really, there isn't much coming out that follows those. So it's nice. It's like it kind of fits that, because you don't want, if it's coming out all the time, the pedigree loses its, esteem. Now Golden Age is a completely different story. That's like, that can be a wide range of things because there's so many different books that came out there and a lot of different ways that it can be interesting and special. It doesn't have to be just about value. Obviously, grade is always a factor. It doesn't have to be like a $5 million collection, so that usually consists of, grade is obviously number one. The presence of something that's complete. Whether it's if size, obviously size is the biggest factor. If it's huge and high grade, it's probably gonna get a pedigree. Those don't turn up at all anymore. I'd say Crippen was probably the last one, and that was 15 years ago. And, now we got like Billy Wright, which is a smaller group, like 300 or 400 books, but, just from a really key period, and so, it's so like all the ECs, the games books, they were all ECs. The Auroras were all science fiction, sci-fi and fantasy. And so, that there has to be like, just some kind of like, I guess like a grouping. And so, and that's kind of like, but it's a case by case basis. It really depends on what, every list is different. Golden Age collections are all so different. So it really boils down to what it is, and we've turned down a lot, and there's been one or two here that we're like, wow, this is cool. It's got a cool factor to it. The grades are there, interesting books. I think people dig this, so case by case.
Pretty sweet. One of the things that I guess a lot of people aren't familiar with, and I didn't realize this, is the registry system at CGC.
Yes.
It's like where the elite collectors go to play. Can you explain that?
Yeah. We have like okay. I'll start from the beginning. I'll make it short. I won't. So there's basically it's an opportunity for collectors to take a run of their comics and put it up on you put it on the registry set, and you get scored based on each book has a score based on its grade, based on what book it is. So like FF1 is going to have a humongous score, especially in high grade, versus FF number 73. And so and so we allow certain runs to be put up. And this is where it's interesting because, again, it's like the combinations are infinite, but it's like it might be like FF1 through 100, or it might be like something kind of small, like maybe a 20 issue run or something, or gold, silver age, bronze, spot, and all that stuff. And so it allows, so they launch a set and they say, okay, here's the set that you can register under. And then let's say it's FF1 through 100. So then people will go on and say, well, I have FF, I have 80% of the run. It's in, 8.0 or, 8 to 9.0. This is what I've been building, my pride and joy. I'm going to put this out there. So they'll put it up there and they'll enter each individual book in its serial number. So it's, it matches. It has to match to make sure that you have the book. And then it'll score everything, and then you'll end up with a final score. And then other guys will do the same, or girls, and they'll put their runs in, and so basically it's like like who's got the best the set. And,
it creates this weird scenario where like a random issue that doesn't appear in high grade becomes incredibly coveted by serious collectors, and like everyone in the world scours for them.
Right. Yeah. That happened in coins. I forget, it was a penny. It was like it was the same exact thing. Like everybody built their sets, and there was like this penny from like 1953 or something, and like it sold for like at the $30,000 or something, because only for that reason, to fill in 8 collectors looking at to plug their hole in their collection or something. So it definitely it brings out it shows it's not just about what exists out there, but what's put together. And I don't know if it's gotten to that level where it's there's like a ton of I think, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are private with their collections. You get some people that go on there, and I think there's a lot out there that don't really post what they have. So,
no question about it. But there's also this like Fight Club underground for the registry that not a lot of like. It's like one of those things. Like if then But for whatever reason, I thought everybody knew, but clearly they don't.
Right. Yeah, because I know. Ooh, God, I know a lot of people with unbelievable, golden age collections, and they, it's. But the other thing too is that it's like they set the set. The sets are, it's like it has to be math through 1 through 23. Like it can't, it's like it's they're really, like I said, there's every collecting taste is different. So you have such a broad, a collection might be very spread out among many different titles, and so it might not be, somebody that's trying to collect, one run. It's and so I think some of the sets we've made have been like Hitler covers, one shots, Avon one shot, something trying to, capture more of that style of collecting where it's, it's spread out, because that's kind of the golden age. A lot of golden age collectors are like that, where they pick and choose, what they want. Yeah.
Neat. So let me ask you about Brian stole my next question, which is a great question. Will you put it back up, buddy? 5 million collectibles last month.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm looking at the picture. That's great. Yeah. 5 million. Yeah, 5 million, man. That's crazy. Crazy.
Congratulations. It is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Where is that? Yeah, that is I wonder who has that now. Is that out? Is that didn't pop up for sale or anything, did it?
I believe that was the 5 millionth book that was graded, right? Am I
yeah, it was. Yeah, right? I wonder. We just shipped it out. We just shipped it out. I wonder who did what with it. It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's neat in its own right.
It is. It's very cool. Yeah.
Good stuff. Congratulations.
It's insane to think that it's crazy, but then I also think that I think of like a print run of what like X-Men 1, was that 1 million comics?
So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost bought one today for $1, and then I was like, just can't do it.
Right. I don't think we'll ever grade all 1 million of them, or 900,000, whatever's left over.
No, but I think people are paying like considerable money for 9/8, which I never thought would ever happen ever in my entire life, and they are. And not aberrant sales, and I was just like, maybe I should.
Yeah.
No, as a matter of principle, I just put it back.
What is it selling for? Like 100? I don't even know. I haven't checked GPA on it.
Hundreds of dollars, like $300, I think is
really?
What the. Yeah.
Really?
Don't tell Go Collect to use GPA. I do too. So let me ask you this one. Can we talk about the newsstand census? It legitimately is a source of turmoil for all of my friends, who every single one of them is convinced that they know the answer, including myself, but I don't think any of us do. Is it on a book-by-book basis? I mean, for a while I thought it was price variants that were newsstands got their own census. Do you have any idea how that all works? I should ask you before we started. I know that's kind of a weird non-graded question.
If we've broken out the newsstand editions on the census, you mean?
So you have for certain books that are price variants, but I think you also have for other books that I don't think are price variants. And I didn't know if those were the aberrations, or if the price variant was kind of the rule, or if there were real bright line rules, or if again it was just on kind of a case by case basis where there was enough foresight to say, hey, I think a newsstand of this particular issue might be interesting to piece out on the census because we see so few of them.
Yeah, I think it's a case by case, because you're telling me this, and I'm thinking while you're telling me, I'm like, the census is dictated by the fields that we assign for that book. And so if we had, I think aren't there cases where there's like, we didn't differentiate when we initially graded the book for years? There's cases like that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like 99% of them. I'm exaggerating.
Right. But it's like a fairly new thing. It's like the past couple, recent.
So there's a very very big trend towards late newsstand Marvel in DC. People who were really excited about finding them because they're rare. That kind of hit its peak with Ultimate Fallout 4, but before that, Captain Marvel 17, the Kamala Khan book in newsstand, sold for an astronomical sum. And when people sort of got hip to this idea, there was just a huge move towards these newsstand books for late Marvel, late DC. But
right.
And it was like, if there's a different price, like if it's $1.95 instead of $1.50 or vice versa, then CGC has documented that out. But that's the rarity, right? That's the exception. That's the aberration, not the rule, the price variant. But then there are some other older books that, for whatever reason, somebody was like, we don't see that many newsstands. Let's give them their own census. And I didn't know if that was, like much of our hobby just evolving over time.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's like the other thing. It's like a case by case where it's like, there's been ones that we've broken out since the beginning. I know, like, I'm pretty sure like the Spidey Gold, the newsstand of that one. I think we've broken that one out since day one. I think. It's like the right. Yeah. But now, like you said, there's like an explosion of interest in like all newsstand versions, or at least anything that you can differentiate. And in that case, I guess it would be misleading, because if we've graded, say, 1,000 copies of a book, that all of a sudden we're differentiating, in the 18th or 20th year, and then you go on the census and say there's only 2 or 5 or 10, when it could be 20% of that 1,000 copies could have it, or 10%, or who knows? I don't know. If it's truly rare, then maybe it would only be a few, 10 or 20 of that 1,000. So I think that really kind of determines that's the tricky part. But if there's like a force, if there's a desire for a particular book to have it on there, not only will we start grading it that way, but the census should dictate that, I would think, because there's a certain field, like the variant field, where that would start to appear, would drive that to the census, I believe. So, I might be wrong, but if I am wrong, let me know and I'll look into it. But I think once we start identifying, it goes in. I'm just thinking ahead how, the beginning of that.
Right. I mean, like, at some point in time, are you going to be like, okay, send us pictures with your serial number on it? You can put them in a Dropbox and email them here. Like, there would be a lot of like retooling that would have to happen to create a census like that. And then what are you going to do? Say it's $6, send us a sticker you can put on the front of your book.
Oh, no.
Or
we wouldn't do
them.
It is what it is until it comes back in the building, and then it becomes something new. That's the only way. So over time it would correct itself, because if the demand goes up, there's 1,000 graded copies, and let's say 100 of them have the newsstand thing. Well, they're going to be ferreted out. They're going to be found. They're going to be regraded with the newsstand on the label, and within a fairly I don't know, a year, 2, 3 years, whatever, the census will eventually accurately reflect those 100 copies. They'll be found and they'll be regraded, and then and then of course everybody will be digging for more. So it'll but initially, as soon as it that like it goes up, it's like, holy crap, there's only one. That's a little misleading, but it takes time. But eventually it would all even out on the census.
I'm wondering, is there going to be a time where we're going to get a collector announcement board on the CGC webpage, where it's like every time there's like a change to something that there's like a 2-sentence entry on there, so that people can peruse them once a week? Or
I don't know. That's a Brittany question. That is a Brittany question. Like on the
board,
she's
probably gonna hate me for that one.
I'm
like,
not
I
sure.
have enough work.
So tell me again, like a collect, like they go on and announce something, like an announcement.
Well, in other words, like I mean, these sorts of changes that happen as.
Oh, you mean on our end? You mean like we come out and say this?
Yeah. Well, in other words, every time you guys change something, you just put like a little 2-sentence blurb, like, by the way, Iron Man 7s will now be differentiated with newsstands, or I don't know. You could go real deep with it, right? Like, now a standard error, but
that's exactly what we plan on doing. We just haven't done it, but I mean, we want like the printing error thing. The printing, by the way, guys, this book just came out this month. It's got this printing error, so there's going to be a consideration made for it. So we talked about that was a big thing, was to have like a printing error or a modern, like every week update with some grading issue with a particular book that people were buying, but what you just said, throw all that other stuff in too, like a bulletin board, like, oh, here you go, this. That's a great idea, and we need to. You got me thinking about it again. I got to go back. It's just
moments like this where I feel like less of a psychopath. Thank you, Matt.
No, it's brilliant. No, it's great. I mean, there's so many. There's like so many. We're just so busy over there, and all of our resources are just so tied up. And we're trying to that's a great idea. We just have to implement it. We just got to do that. And I think eventually it will happen. But I think that more information is better. If everybody knows what we're thinking, then it's going to make everybody's lives a little bit easier. When they're dealing with this. So they need to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so can I provide CGC instructions on which side of a book I want to appear on the front? Like I've got it has to be the front.
It's got to be, you can't, we had that just come up the other day. Somebody requested, like, we flip a comic around, and we were like, no, this is going to look wrong. This is going to look wrong. No.
There are two-sided comics, right, that are not flip books, but, like, the back is a cover. So one that sticks out for me is the Elephant Men issue that has a J. Scott Campbell back cover. And will it always appear in, or, what are kind of like the rules about that? Not to put like the ad on the front, like.
Yeah. Right. I think you're saying there's something that's so rare too, to see something on the back that's just as cool, even cooler. I don't know. That is
two that are cooler. One I'm really excited about, but I'll probably never get it. That's so there we go. That's it. That's the back. That's the front. Nope. Yeah.
Back. That's the back. Oh. Okay. That's a good point there. Yeah, I can see through the back. Yeah. I don't. That would be. I think that might be a case by case basis, and Sean makes those calls on that. I mean, like I said earlier, if it's just a flipping something over, no. But if a comic like that, we would have a discussion. Sean would. We would be like, what book is it? Tell me about the situation, like what's going on here, and then kind of make a judgment on that. I mean, or it might be a flat no. I don't know. It's like the problem is if you grade 100 on one way and then you grade one the other, and you flip it around, it caused a lot of confusion. It potential,
chaos.
Right. Yeah, and we're trying to avoid that, so we try to be, consistent.
Yeah. And so you ready for the worst one, and there is no picture of it. Splitting Image was an image spoof book that has a spoof of Spawn on the back cover that's hilarious. It's exceptional. It's like a spoof on the Spawn 1 cover, but only on the newsstands.
Oh,
it's like Savage Dragon or whatever, right? And so add that to the horrific storm of tough issues that you guys face all the time. That would be the one that I personally want. Like, look, I like the Bad Girls cover like everybody else, but that Spawn cover is just insane. And it only appears on newsstands, right? So I was like, well, can you just put a Post-it note on that one? And the other reasons I ask is because I see collectors pay these extravagant prices for CGC errors. Like a book that was encapsulated backwards, somebody just paid an outrageous amount of money for it. You guys had a run of 250 Young Avengers 1s, right?
Yeah.
They're 9.5s. The 9.8 of that book sells for $600. Do you know how much the 9.5 is selling for?
How much?
$3,000. I find that to be the most outrageously offensive and bizarre thing in the world, but it's not my money. It's not my money. People can burn their comics, they can burn their cash, they can do whatever they want. But
that's insane. That's insane. And by the way, we fixed that. We fixed that. There should not ever be a 9.5 again. So So I enjoy it. I guess that's effing crazy. That's crazy. But you know what? But that kind of is like the pattern with collecting today. It's just the newsstand editions and the 11th printings and it's just a unique factor. It's a rarity factor. Whatever it's incredible. Oh, by the way, I did want to say if you send in like a page, just a page of a comic. This is like vintage. we will do either side for you on that. So that, yeah, you can for a wrap, a wrap, not a cover, but a page or a wrap. We'll flip, we'll flip that around because some page, it's like you get a cool Batman or Cat page, and they're like the action pose is on the inside or the back side, and you want to kind of like so we'll do that. Yeah, so that's we'll do that.
Matt, what is the future of CGC? Where are you guys headed?
Whew, man. Oh God, there's so many ideas. Obviously more ideas than we got the time and the resources for to do, as fast as we want. I mean, we got, foreign comics, we're working on that. There's we just started the Pokemon, we just started the Magic. I think sports cards is in play. Yeah, hopefully I didn't talk about that.
That's out of bag.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, like other things that we're talking about grading that I probably I'm not going to talk about now. And then beyond that, there's taking the the information that we have. This is the thing. This is the other thing I think that's so valuable that we haven't done enough with is our database of 20 years. All the stuff we've graded. It's so many lines of data on it. So much good information. And I mean, we turn that upside down and analyze data 50 different ways. I got Greg Hollins helping us out with that. He's been awesome at that for he sees it. He saw a decade, 20 years ago, whatever. So his way of thinking, that's that whole thing, that alone. And then obviously internal stuff. This is helping us, with the grading room as well. And there's there's other ideas I've got just little floating out there in space now. So there's no shortage of ways we're going to go. The in-house signings have been huge this year. That seems to be a new thing, or a thing that's going to continue. It's just I keep saying this. I mean, we've got a team that are all working together, and I think we've achieved something where the whole is greater than the parts. We've achieved a group of people that are so good at what they do and so excited, and all these ideas are spilling forth, and building what we have and trying to create new things and innovate, and the opportunities there, because obviously the market's exploding. We're doing great, and so it's like it's a perfect storm. And so I love just watching all of it, just kind of this and this and this and this and this and this, and then of course it's like you want it to happen yesterday. That's the most frustrating part, is not getting it out fast enough. But yeah, it's so a lot of stuff going. I mean, you guys have probably seen, just even the past year, just a lot of stuff popping up. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be in this business right now, doing what we do. So thankful.
I really want to thank you for joining us today. This means more to the CBSI community than I can possibly articulate. If you would kind of let people know whether or not they should send their thank you cards to Sarasota, or how they could possibly pay our honor debt that we owe you guys for being the guardians at the gate. I don't think that people talk about that enough, because that's truly the job that CGC does for this hobby. They provide objectivity and verification of authenticity for the collectibles that we love, and it is a bond of trust that you guys honor every single way imaginable, and it means the world to people who love comics that you guys work so hard to do that for us. Before we go, if you could kind of talk a little bit about that, about the real gravity of the role that you have and CGC has for this hobby that's so important to all of us. And I'll kind of leave our viewers with that.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely changed since since the beginnings. Everything I've watched, it's gone from, to put it kind of bluntly, a piece of plastic that we used to wrap around, or CGC would wrap around a book to help it sell better for the dealers and the collectors who all knew what they were doing. Who was CGC going to tell them what to do 20 years ago? And it's evolved. The mindset has evolved about what CGC is to many things. I think it's obviously it protects the comic. The information that it gives reassures the person of what it is, that we've checked it out, authenticated it, given the grade, checked it for everything. Framing it up nicely, making it liquid. All of it. But I think it provides it's a safety factor for everyone. It's kind of like it brings levels the playing field and kind of takes one of the most challenging aspects of investments out of it for comic books, which is the whole grade thing. Is it authentic? They go in the antique road shows. The guy tells them that it's all done. And so all of those factors are removed, and what you're left with is the pure joy and love of the comic. You have it is what it is, and there it is in that beautiful holder, all framed and nice, and you can show it off to everybody, and it's a talking piece, And I think so it's a safety, a love thing. It's like all these things that combine, and it's evolved to that point. It took many years to get to that point. But where it is now, it's really so that's the thing that we keep in mind, when we grade, is that we love the books too, and it's like people's babies. It's money and kids rolled into one. They're sending us both, and so we take a lot of care for that and for those reasons, and because we're in the same boat. We love this stuff too. We totally get it. So it's a pleasure to work, to see the books, but also to know that they're going out to these people who really love them and cherish them, and to just be a part of this whole explosion going on. It's like I said, it's a dream job. I'm so thankful to be in it.
Well, we love CGC because CGC loves comics. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Nico.